Get higher, baby. Get higher, baby. Get higher, girl. Hey.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Knights of the Pageless Library. We are a podcast dedicated to reviewing audiobooks. I am Bo Knight.
And I am Ryan Knight.
And today we are taking a look at Skybreaker, written by Kenneth Oppel and narrated by a whole cast of audio, so it's kind of hard to list them all right now.
This is a full cast audio unabridged, so it's not really like it's not a dramatization per se. It just has different people that voice all the characters.
Yeah, for everybody who speaks has a different voice.
Sure.
Hey, and this is the second book after Airborne. I'm not sure what this series is called. Is it called like the Matt Cruz saga?
Yes, it is
like
called.
That?
It is actually just called Matt Cruz.
Okay, which makes sense, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a weird name for a series of books, but yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I've been digging the second book in Matt Cruz. What?
Yeah. Excuse me. So this book was written in 2008? Is that what I'm seeing? I think the book came out originally 2006, and then the audio version we listened to came out in 2008.
That's what I'm seeing too.
So Kenneth Oppel, we've covered a few of his books actually now. So we've done Airborne and This Dark Endeavor. But he has a whole slew of books available actually on Audible. Although I was going to say it doesn't look like you can actually get This Dark Endeavor anymore, but I didn't click on everything. There it is.
Yeah, and he writes mainly like not like necessarily children's books for people like in their like teens, I would say.
That's what I would say too. Yeah, that's a pretty good demographic I think that he targets is the because a lot of these, I mean, we'll get into this a little bit more, but these are like, at least the couple books we've listened to, these are kind of like coming of age stories. Really.
Yeah, for sure, especially these.
So, yeah.
I'm seeing you can buy it for $45, but that doesn't seem right.
That's what I'm seeing too.
Holy cow.
Yeah, I'm not sure why it costs so much. I'm assuming because it's a whole slew of people who did it, it costs a lot more to produce, but yeah, that seems kind of steep.
And it's only 11 hours long. So I mean, to me that's short, but it's kind of a long book.
Yeah, I'd say that's a decent amount of time. I don't think it's $45 worth of time.
Yeah, that is kind of shocking to me. I looked at that and I had my mouth open. I was like, "What? That's a lot of scratch."
So what did you think in this one about the full cast of
I don't think
people
it's
who
as
did
good as Airborne, but it's still pretty good.
I would agree with that. I don't know that they did quite as well as Airborne. There's a lot less characters in this one.
Yes.
After a certain point, there's far less characters.
I'm not super fond of the guy that does Hal's voice.
Okay, yeah. I thought he did okay.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he does a bad job. It's just like he has a lot of talking compared to everyone else.
Sure. I mean, I really like the kid who does Matt Cruz's voice.
Yeah, he does great.
I really like the kid or the gal who does what's her face's voice? Kate, yeah. I like her. I think she does a good job.
I think the best one is actually the lady that does Miss Simpkins.
Miss Simpkins, that's what I was gonna say too.
I think she's the best.
It's because we don't have freaking Captain Walken in this one.
That's true. Captain Walken has such a buttery smooth voice.
Yeah,
and we'll get into that a little bit more.
Sure. But yeah, I would agree with that. That I think the first book was actually a little bit better as far as the range of the cast is concerned, but I didn't think this one was bad by any means.
And I don't know, something was weird with the audio transitions they would do between like chapters. I had one that was just like one note that played for like a solid 30 seconds.
Yeah, no, that's what they were, and I didn't
Okay, so
really.
you heard that too. Okay.
Yeah, no, and I didn't really understand what was going on because I caught myself doing that too. So in the first one, they would do those audio
But
transitions.
it was always the same thing. It was like that dun 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 dun.
Yeah,
That's all it would be.
or it might have been like that kind of low tone, like
Yeah,
if
the
something was.
spooky one.
Yeah, but in this one, I caught myself being like, "What are we taking commercial breaks in the
Kinda,
middle
yeah.
of this?" Because it would play like the tone, and then there would be just like a pause of silence for several seconds.
Or one of them, it's literally that ending note. They just hold it for like 30 seconds. It's so weird.
It was weird. I agree.
I'm glad that you caught that too, because I thought that was maybe
Hmm.
just like an audio glitch on how I downloaded it.
No, I definitely heard that stuff too, for sure.
Yeah, some weird like inconsistencies. So yeah, Skybreaker. What kind of genre is this?
I mean, this is probably, what would you call this? Like fantasy, sci-fi. Like I said, maybe like a coming of age story.
Yeah, and like an adventure, a little bit of a love story too.
Yeah, it's kind of twisted in there. I mean, yeah, I mean, we'll get into it a little bit, but yeah, there's a little bit of love story thrown in there.
Yeah, just it is
All
kind
right,
of
what do you think?
steampunk.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Super easy to follow.
Steampunk is good, so anybody who listened to our review of Airborne would know kind of the setting of this story. This is set in sort of an alternative future where instead of like
that, but now I don't think that anymore.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's so many weird animals.
That is true, actually. That's a good point.
Because it's not like a situation where like in Hard Magic where it's just like we took a different path of technology. It's like there's totally different things in this environment than there are here.
Yeah, I suppose that's true. Yeah, so what do you think? Is this one easy to follow?
Yeah, it's pretty easy to follow. I mean, there are some convoluted parts for sure, especially towards the end. You really have to be paying attention.
I agree, but I think overall this one's pretty easy listening. I mean, I listened through this one just the one time, and I'd say it's pretty easy, like start to finish. There's not a whole lot of bouncing around from perspectives and stuff, so it makes it pretty easy to follow.
Yeah, the whole thing is from Matt Cruz's perspective, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay.
And again, I think easy listening. I mean, I'd say this one's pretty easy listening. The cast does a pretty good job and stuff like that. So
yeah,
it's
other than those weird audio glitches.
Oh, sure. Yeah, and the bump music stuff is bizarre.
Yeah, it's really weird this time. I don't know.
So what do you think? What's your recommendation on this one, Bo?
I don't like this one as much as Airborne.
Okay.
But I don't think it's bad. I'll probably end up listening to it again.
Okay. I would 100% agree with that. I liked Airborne a lot more than I liked this one, actually.
Oh, a lot more.
Yeah. For the sole fact that like Airborne was like there was a lot of mystery and stuff in Airborne with kind of what you were going to encounter. But when those things cropped up in this one, I was kind of like, okay, now we're just like pulling rabbits out of hats. Like,
yeah, that part that you're talking about, I was like, oh, seriously? I was like, come on.
Yeah.
Another animal that nobody's ever seen before, and you are the first to see these things?
Exactly.
Come on.
Yeah, okay. I'm glad you are getting what I'm putting down too, because that was exactly the point where I was just like, okay, I see where this is going. Like I mean, I'm not saying it was bad, but it just the mystery and the allure of that were gone because that's pretty much what the first book did, So
This one, it almost feels like he wrote a whole story and was like, oh shit, but I need to put like a weird animal in there.
Right. Yeah.
That's kind of what it feels like to me. It's
Right.
like he was like, oh shit, just jam him in there.
It kind of did feel that way. I agree. Plus, I mean, I don't know. We'll get into this here in a minute after we pass the spoiler wall, but had a really hard. It's one thing like if sea monsters are real, but it's pretty hard to miss sky monsters even from the ground. So,
And
just saying.
there are a couple like mechanical limitations that end up making no sense.
Sure.
But yeah, I think if you like the first one, and I mean you enjoyed like Matt's exploits and like you like the way of it being like a full cast audiobook, I think there is probably something for you here.
Sure.
Sounds like Ryan's a little less lukewarm on this than me, but I think it was an enjoyable time. I didn't loathe listening to it.
No. I just definitely enjoyed Airborne a lot more than I enjoyed this, especially going into Airborne blind, like because the sort of mysterious part of that book really kind of catches you off guard. You're like, "Oh, that's not what I was expecting." So then when you come into this book, it almost feels like you had all the spoilers already. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Speaking of spoilers, the freaking cover kind of spoils a lot, if I'm being honest.
Well, it didn't really make sense to me until I finished the book.
I mean, it only made sense to me. There was a specific point in the book where I remember being like, wait a minute, I know exactly what the cover means. I probably still had a few hours of the book left too.
I
So
didn't even put two and two together until I looked
okay.
at the cover today.
Well, I'm weird like that, so I guess but I did. It was, yeah, it's a little spoilery, but anyway, that's beside the point. So I mean, yeah, I would agree with what you said though. Like if you're a fan of the first book, which I am, I think this is definitely worth listening to and following up on for sure.
I will say I'm a little lukewarm to listen to the last one.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we probably will at some point, just because now we'd have to finish out the series. But yeah, I would agree with that.
So yeah, you want to get into the spoilers?
Yeah, so we'll go ahead and pass the spoiler wall for anybody, if you're new here, that we're just gonna go ahead and discuss the book back and forth, So like we said, we're gonna spoil it. So if you don't want to be spoiled, go ahead, go back and listen to this book, and then come back here and listen to what we have to say about it.
Yeah.
So Skybreaker opens up because now Matt Cruz is at the Air Academy. Is that what it's called? Airship Academy?
Yeah, I think that's just what they call it.
Yeah, so now he's a student there. And he's on his, what is he's on the Flotsam, right?
Yeah, he's basically doing like an internship, but
Yeah,
they call it like I can't remember, like an assignment.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, something like that.
Because he's there, he's assisting the navigator.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so he's on the Flotsam, which is an airship that is basically sounds like it's more like a cargo airship is all. And it sounds like it's a pretty shitty one at that. So while they're on this, they're like on kind of a failed cargo run is what it sounded like to me. So they're basically just trying to return to port and restock, resupply, whatever, so they can turn around and go again. But as they're on their way back to Paris, they come across this storm, which supposedly moves around the ocean, and it's called the Devil's Fist, which great name, by the way.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Which, yeah, I was super stoked on that name. And the captain of the Flotsam is apparently like insane, and he's like,
I think he's just stubborn.
Well, yeah, that's a better way to put it. But he's like, we're going straight through this thing.
Well, I took that as like he didn't want to lose any more time, so he just wanted to cut right through the storm.
Well, yeah, because their only other option is to go around, and they say something like they'll lose like a several days or something like that of time if they go around it. So yeah, he's like, we're gonna go straight through it, and we get a little bit of a inside look as to what happens to an airship when you go through a raging storm, apparently. So you get caught in this mad downdraft first, and then after the downdraft lets go of you, you get caught in the updraft of the storm. Which, okay, this is a little bit semantic-y, but don't you think if the downdraft is pushing your ship down and you release all of your ballast water, then yes, of course, you're going to pop up, right? You're going to go straight up. But at what point are you able to then release enough hydrium that you're at a steady pace? Wouldn't you always either be sinking or floating then at that point?
Yeah, the dynamics of an airship don't really make sense.
No, especially not when it's like because it's not like a hot air balloon where you can add or allow,
Right.
Yeah, because I would think once you release all your ballast, you're screwed.
Fuck.
You're just
How are you gonna
going
come back
up.
down?
Yeah, and then if you're coming back down and say you make a mistake, well, now you're really screwed because you got no more ballast to release, so you're just coming straight down. So yeah, it's just kind of semantics, but yeah, it kind of irritated me.
Yeah, it doesn't really make sense. But like while they're shooting back up, they see another ship. And
it's like above. It's like above the freaking storm too. It's way higher.
It's way high up in the clouds, like super, super high up.
What's what called?
The ship that they find.
The Hyperion.
Oh, I wanted to call it the Aurora, but that's the ship that Matt Cruz was stationed on before.
Yeah, the Hyperion.
Yeah, so all the other, like the people on the crew know that the Hyperion is supposed to have like a lot of treasure on it. And so they basically just try and go get it.
Yeah, their captain's like, we're going to go and tow the Hyperion in. And the Hyperion has been lost. It's not lost at sea. It's lost in the air for like more than 40 years.
Yeah.
But yeah, supposedly it has this like rich dude. It was on it, and he took a ton of stuff with him, and he was super rich. So they're like, all his treasure's on board. So the captain of the Flotsam's like, we're going to tow her back in to make up for this failed, trip. So they start heading for the Hyperion. Well, the Hyperion's floating around like 20,000 feet elevation, which supposedly at those altitudes, your airship has all kinds of problems, right? So you have low oxygen levels. It causes your hydrium bags to swell because the hydrium expands at low pressures. It wreaks havoc on an airship. So as they start going up and going after this thing, Matt Cruz realizes like the rest of the crew is getting lightheaded. They're getting like goofy with laughter. They're not focused, and basically all the crew starts like passing out around him too. It also starts getting so cold his hands like aren't functioning and stuff like that. So Matt ends up having to be the one to freaking dump a bunch of hydrium and allow them to come back down. But we don't get a whole lot more than that because Matt dumps all the hydrium, and then we cut like to chapter 2 and they're back in Paris. So
and he's talking to like his instructor.
Yeah, and his instructor, because the captain of the Flotsam basically booted him off because he got so pissed off that Matt didn't allow them all to die, which is all
he wasn't
happen.
Following orders.
Yeah, he was being freaking
insubordinate.
He was being insubordinate. That's right. By not allowing them all to die, the whole crew is like passed out around him, except for like
one guy
Cruz.
Does die.
What's that?
That one guy does die from the ship.
Oh yeah, he does end up. Yeah.
Oh, and then so he talks to his like I want to say commanding officer, but that's not right. He's just like his professor, and he tells him that since they found the Hyperion, like a lot of people are going to be looking for him, and that I can't remember the guy's name, but his son wants to meet Matt Cruz so he can give him the coordinates of the last known position of the Hyperion. I can't remember the guy's name.
Grunell.
No, yes, the like madman inventor.
Yeah. But yeah, Grunell's son wants those last known coordinates so he can go and retrieve the ship, obviously.
And then he meets Kate for lunch, and she's like exceptionally late because she always is. He like showed up late on purpose, and she's like an hour later than that.
Yeah, not only are they having lunch, they're having lunch like in the Eiffel Tower, like in the most expensive restaurant in Paris.
That's right, because everybody wants to kick him out while he's waiting for her because he's kind of wearing shabby clothes.
Yeah, and Cruz can't afford anything there, not even like a glass of water.
Yeah.
So he's pretty pissed off that she left him there like that because she knew that would probably happen to him.
Yeah, we do get to meet Chef Vlad again, who is great.
Right. That was pretty good. I like that little touch there that Chef Vlad is cooking there, and he hooks Cruz up. He hooks him up with a bunch of free food and stuff.
Yeah, because Vlad's from the first book, and pretty much everybody on the Aurora was pretty fond of Cruz.
Right. So Kate shows up, and she's flying an ornithopter because she somehow got her ornithopter's license. And is this the part where she tells him, or well, this is where they talk about the fact that he saw the Hyperion, right? Because she brings it up because she has like a newspaper that says the Hyperion was spotted.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But so then Kate's idea is that she wants to go get it.
Because he's supposed to have like an immense collection of taxidermy, and she wants to go look at all the species that he has on display. Because Kate is extremely wealthy, so she doesn't need any money or anything like that. Like her parents are pretty loaded.
Right. Exactly. So they sort of kind of get this weird little plan that they're gonna try to go to figure this out. But before they do that, Cruz has to go talk to the Grunell's son and see what's going on with that guy. Come to find out, it's not Grunell's son.
Well, he meets Nadira slightly before that.
Oh, good call. Yes, that's right. That's right. Yeah, before he goes into this building to meet with Grunell's son, this girl tries to stop him outside. Well, the building he's going into is it's a pretty like high-end building, so the doorman like stops her.
Oh yeah, because she's a gypsy.
Yeah, she's a gypsy, and it's apparently obvious by her attire. So the doorman
what does that mean?
Her.
Like,
I have no idea.
I don't, because I thought this is gonna sound probably really dumb and naive. I thought gypsies was like a race of people too.
Well, the way they talk about it in this, they are.
I know, but is this just like closed-minded 1920s mindset? Am I being extremely offensive?
I honestly don't know. Is it the same thing?
I don't know, because they make it sound like what she's wearing is what determines that she's a gypsy.
Right. But in that case, you could just change your clothes and you are no longer
That's what
a gypsy.
I mean. It seems really weird.
Right. Well, and she brings it up later though, right? Because she's like, oh, something about my father wasn't a true...
It wasn't a roamer.
Yeah, which... And she's like all disappointed about that. But I was like, what does that even mean?
I don't know. We don't really get to know a whole lot about Nadira, honestly.
Yeah, but so anyways, she gets stopped by the doorman, but she's like calling Matt by his name. She's like, Matt Cruz, and she's like, I really need to talk to you. Well, Matt ends up not talking to her because he's been told that the gypsies just freaking steal your money and stuff around town.
Yeah.
So he goes and he meets with Grunell's son. Well, come to find out, it's not Grunell's son. It's a freaking Wrath.
I do like the details though, that Matt notices that his suit doesn't fit him right. And he thinks that's really weird for somebody extremely wealthy to have clothes that don't fit.
Yeah, for sure. Which that is an amazing detail to catch. Like that's a good way for him to catch on, because it is something that he said he noticed because he was on the Aurora and he was around wealthy people all the time. And he said one thing about wealthy people, their clothes always fit correctly.
Yeah, but you're right. This is a pirate, but he doesn't know that. So Matt just like he doesn't want to let them know because he wants to go find. Oh my God, the Hyperion. So he just writes down some random coordinates. He's like, there you go. And the guy's like, well, these coordinates are over the Pacific Ocean, and I thought you were somewhere by Africa. And he's like, and so he just decides to like run away from them, right? And he's like, I can't remember how he gets away.
I can't fully remember either. All I know is him and Nadira end up jumping rooftops together.
Yeah. And then Nadira says basically the same pitch. She's like, I want to find the Hyperion. I have this special key that my father gave me that if anyone else tries to open one of these doors, the ship will just explode. So you guys have to have this key in order to take me to go. And at this point, Matt kind of is like, I don't even know if I want to find the the freaking Hyperion. Sorry. And then he like Nadira tells him where he can find her, and he's like, yeah, whatever, I don't even really care. He leaves, and I can't remember what makes him decide that he thinks it's a good idea.
I don't remember either, because doesn't he go after this though? Doesn't he go to talk to Kate, and that's when Hal is at her place?
Oh yes, that's right. Yeah, he goes to talk to Kate like in the evening, and yeah, she's there with some other suitor.
Yeah, and that's what makes him decide to go talk to Nadira, because he's going to get back at Kate.
Right. Yeah, this whole story is kind of like a jealous. And that's really the part of it that I don't like very much.
Yeah, I
is
agree.
Like this weird love triangle thing that's going on that they just like kind of sweep under the rug at the end and was like, oh, it didn't mean anything.
Exactly. I agree too.
And another gripe I have with this book is that the characters are just not as interesting as they were in Airborne, because like with Airborne you have like that whole
I would agree with that
whole crew that Matt knows like personally, and they all have so much flavor. And like here you get Hal and Nadira, and Hal is pretty bog standard in my opinion.
See, and this is kind of spoilers for towards the end. I thought for sure Hal was going to stab him in the back, for sure. I was like, this character has to be deeper than we've been getting, because so far he's been like puddle level deep.
and it doesn't really even get any deeper than that.
No, it doesn't really change much more than that. So after Matt witnesses this, Matt goes back to Nadira, and Nadira says, meet me at the whatever bay, launching bay. We're going to go, basically they're going to go take a ship. Isn't that like her idea? They're going to like steal a ship, which is
they're not going to steal a ship. They're just going to, what do you call that when you like pay for someone?
Oh, they're just going to like hire somebody to take them there. That's right.
Oh, there's like a term for it, but I can't think of it.
Well, and it would be, they obviously have no money, so that's right. Yeah, they're going to charter a ship because, and the only real reward they have is they say, once we find the Hyperion, there's like tons and tons of money on there.
Right. They would just give the captain a cut of the salvage.
Right. Well, come to find out, they like go there. Basically, what ends up happening is Hal Slater, the guy that Kate was talking to, he owns the ship that Nadira wanted to go charter anyways. So
right, because I guess we kind of mentioned it, but they needed like a special ship to even be able to get up there.
Yeah,
and this is something that bothers me.
A Skybreaker.
But they make it seem like there's no ships that would be able to do this. It would be impossible. But then like we end up running into like two of them almost immediately. Plus
the fact that the Hyperion has literally been up there for 40 years just drifting around. So the ship itself is capable of doing it technically.
Right.
Just the crew was not.
Right. I guess that's the main thing, is like that it's hard on the crew to get up there.
Yeah. Yeah, so basically what ends up happening then is that they agree that Cruz can come because he has the coordinates. Slater obviously has the ship, and Nadira has the key. And then there's like some bickering back and forth between Nadira and Kate, because Nadira is like, well, why do you need to come? You're not you don't have anything to contribute to this.
Yeah, but why do they agree to let Kate come? Just cuz?
I guess. I'm not really
Because
sure.
she's not taking a cut, right? She just wants the taxidermy. She doesn't want any of the money they find.
Yeah, and basically Slater wants he starts out by saying he wants 90% of whatever they get. Because he said obviously he has to pay for all the stuff. And the idea is they're going to go up there, they're going to grab onto it with his Skybreaker, and they're going to bring it back down, and then they can salvage it. But Cruz talks him into what he ends up getting 70% or 80%.
I think it's 80.
Yeah, 80%.
So him and Didira both get 10%.
Right, which for both of them, since they're both dirt poor, would be tons and tons of money anyways.
Mm-hmm.
So basically they all make an agreement. They get on the ship, and before they leave, the freaking pirates find them again, and they chase them and they shoot guns at them as they're leaving the freaking hangar. And they get out of there, and they get in the sky. And then we have a lot of book where they're just kind of hanging out in the sky.
Yeah, which is there's so much Kate was talking to Hal, and she wouldn't even look at me. She appeared to be having a fantastic time with his regaling stories. I left in sadness and went up to the crow's nest. That's like a lot of the book.
That's spot on, too. It is. And like I said, I didn't actually realize it until we just started talking about it. But yeah, because the first part up to when they get on the ship, and then until they find the Hyperion, I was like, there's a lot of filler in here.
Yeah, I mean, there's just there's a lot of posturing and a lot of stuff. The only thing that's probably important to mention is that Nadira is really interested in how Matt was able to kill Spearglass.
Sure.
Who was the pirate from the last book. Which
Sure.
Immediately, spoilers, obviously, immediately when she was like, I want to know about Spearglass, I was like, oh shit, he's her daughter.
Yeah, I said the same thing, yeah.
Like, come on. So obvious.
Well,
they want you to be surprised, so they reveal it too, and it's like, even the characters aren't surprised.
Yeah,
like,
exactly. I mean, it wouldn't have been so bad if she wasn't so ham-fisted about being like, no,
Yeah.
I want to hear about Spearglass. After she said it the third time, it's like, okay, obviously she has a connection to Spearglass. And the fact that she says she was given something from her dad that she no longer knows, and then she has all the other background stuff about her dad. It's like, yeah, obviously that's who it is.
I guess we could mention
which turns out doesn't really matter all that much anyways in the end. So.
No, it felt kind of pointless. She could have just been another pirate's daughter, and it would have had the same impact. Unless she comes back in the third book or some shit.
Oh, sure. Okay. Yeah.
But I guess we could mention the part where they first encounter the Arizoans, which is a terrible name, by the way.
Yeah, but doesn't Kate call them that? Didn't she make that up?
Yeah, she's the one that gets to name them.
Yeah,
it's terrible.
That's right. That is about the only real interesting thing that happens between the hangar and when they find the Hyperion.
So one day they're I think they're dancing, right? They're dancing because Hal's playing music and Matt dances with Nadira and he finds that he likes it. And then something crashes into the ship and they're unable to turn. And so there's something wrong with the rudder. And Matt wants to go out there just because he likes to be outside. And they go out there and they think there's a bunch of cables all caught up in the rudder. And one of the men gets knocked off the ship and falls to his death. And it turns out there's I don't know what to call them other than flying jellyfish is basically what I picture.
That's the first thing that came to my mind too. He keeps saying they look like squids, but I'm like, you are describing a jellyfish.
Yeah.
You're describing something that's see-through, and it looks like when it's floating that it's ballooning in and out to propel itself. That's a jellyfish.
And they have electricity.
Right. Yeah, because when the first guy dies, Cruz sees that his goggles get knocked off his face and it electrically arcs in between them, and that causes him to fall.
So yeah, there's also these other creatures that nobody had ever heard about just floating around in the sky. And they're not even that high up at this point is the thing that really bothers me. It's how does nobody else know? How would nobody know about these things?
That's what I'm saying. And at first I was like, I tried to reason it out by saying, well, There's a lot of stories about sea monsters that may or may not be real, right? But like I said, if there's stuff in the sky, everybody can see in the sky. We can't all see down in the ocean. So it'd be hard for there to be something undiscovered in the sky that lived up there.
But because it's supposed to be like nobody's flying up this high. Well, I mean, we come to learn that there are a lot of ships that are capable of flying this high, a lot more than they make it seem like. So I don't know. It seems odd.
Yeah.
Just a little too convenient.
Right. And not only is there one attached to their rudder, it got like bound up in their rudder. They're like going through a damn friggin' flock of them in the sky. There's like a whole bunch of them. So, and this will come up again in a little while after they get on the Hyperion.
What else even happens? Nadira teaches Matt math.
Yeah, because Matt is struggling with like his homework from school because apparently he's just like he's very capable of being on a ship, but apparently when it comes to actual like ship smarts, he's not that smart at it. So,
well, yeah, I guess he's not good at like the math behind it all.
Right.
I'm trying to think of anything else that happens. I mean, there's a lot of like fucking love triangle bullshit that goes on between Kate and Hal and Nadira and Matt.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely like a fourth wheel situation at all times in every room.
Yeah, it's really weird.
Yeah, and Matt's like super jealous of Hal because Hal is like only a little bit older than him supposedly, but he already is like rich beyond Cruz's wildest dreams. And we come to find out later that's not really true.
Which I was immediately skeptical, honestly.
Yeah, I agree.
And I guess I like his crew. Like Dorje is pretty cool.
Yeah, so we should mention his whole crew are Sherpas that live around
Mount Everest.
Everest, yeah, Mount Everest. So they're all used to super high elevations because that's like where they grow up. So it makes them perfect for running these ships that will, end up going up so high usually.
Yeah, which there are probably a lot of salvage to be had in this world, if I had to guess.
I mean, yeah, that's probably possible, yeah. But I mean, wouldn't you think, kind of like I said though, wouldn't you think most ships though, if their goal was to float and something happened that caused them to start floating up, they would just never stop floating until they went so high that their gas cells popped and then they immediately went straight back down to Earth?
Yeah, the dynamics don't really make sense.
No.
Because especially like later, a ship gets injured but is able to return to altitude. Like that doesn't really make sense without like having to go to refill anything.
Right. That's what I mean. Yeah. If you've vented hydrium, now you should no longer be able to go up. That means you're only, unless you still have ballast. Maybe that's why, because they had ballast so they could release ballast.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. I don't really understand the dynamics of a freaking airship. I guess
Same.
nobody did because they never really caught on.
So basically what ends up happening is one of Slater's crew is able to take Matt's coordinates and like apparently to the dot plot where the Hyperion would have drifted, which sounds pretty much impossible to me, but okay. And
yeah, it would be impossible because they can't even predict the weather very accurately right now.
Exactly. But, and when I say he plots it to a T, I mean they are in the area they think the Hyperion should be, while Cruz is on watch in the dark, in the clouds, and the Hyperion literally hits their ship.
Yeah, they run into it.
Yeah, they run into it. So it's like they literally plot it to literally a cross point with them and it.
Yeah, so they found the Hyperion, that's good. But since their ship got damaged when they hit the Hyperion, they're not going to be able to salvage it and bring it in. So they have to just go and take trips back and forth from the ship.
Right.
Like, to get valuables, I put in quotes.
Exactly. which also sounds like a terrible idea because they don't even have like a hey, let's lower this huge basket down and we'll just fill this basket up. No. It's like you go down with your backpack, you grab as much shit as you can, and you bring it back up to the top, and we'll haul it up on a rope.
Mm-hmm.
Terrible plan. But so they hook on to the Hyperion, they get on like on its back. And I found this kind of weird because apparently all airships are also built with perfect cleats on top of them to allow another ship to dock to the top of them for some reason.
And the bottom.
And the bottom.
Sides. Seems like they can
the
dock
sides.
anywhere, actually. Now that I really think about it.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. But yeah, so the oh my gosh, what is his ship even called? I can't remember. It's something weird.
It's like Everest in some other language. What is it called?
I cannot think about it right. What is it called?
I don't know.
They say it enough. I should remember
They
it.
talk about it all the time. But I just hated Hal, so it's like, shut up about your stupid ship, dude. I don't care.
It's fair.
And I
Anyways.
think the main weakness, I've already mentioned it, but the main weakness between this and Airborne is just there's not enough characters.
Sure. Yeah, because like after this point, I mean, even while they're on the ship, really, you're only getting Hal, Nadira, Kate, Matt, and some of Miss Simpkins. And his crew talks very rarely. So
Yeah, and they all have the same voice actor.
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
They do.
I know, and it made it really hard to actually figure out who he was talking to most of the time.
So yeah, they get on the ship. Oh, I'm trying to remember what happens like right away.
Yeah, see, and this is where I thought it was going to get interesting.
Me too,
I was
dude.
like,
The Hyperion was such a fucking letdown. Even like the climax,
'cause-
I was like, that's what happens? Okay.
right. Yeah, because I was like, oh man, because he starts even hinting at some stuff. So the first thing they got to do is they got to climb over there. The thing got ice all over it, it's been floating around super high all this time. They got to crack the crow's nest open, and Hal freaking, there's a frozen dead dude in the crow's nest, and the first thing Hal does is take this dude out and just throw him overboard to get him out of their way. And once they're down on the ship, they start hearing like weird noises, sounds like talking, and I was like, oh, it's gonna be like a ghost ship. That's so cool. No, that's not what it is at all.
I'm telling you, it feels like he shoved those Arizoans in the middle because maybe it was a ghost ship to begin with, and he gave it to somebody else and was like, you can't have ghosts and fantastic animals in this fucking world. You have to pick one.
Sure.
Because that's what it feels like. Because they kind of set up this weird like intrigue of like, oh man, maybe there's some haunted spookiness going on, but there isn't.
No, they definitely set that up because at one point they literally hear like the words. It's like crow's nest.
Yeah.
Like through the ship. Somebody says that into a microphone for the recording of the book.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, well, where did that come from? Like, because they're like, oh, it must be the wind. Well, that must be actually what it was, which is really lame.
Yeah, they try and set up this weird like spookiness, and it just nothing happens.
Which is pretty disappointing because it was really spooky when they first get on there.
Yes. So they like look around the ship, and then they find the door to the Engineerium.
Yeah, Engineerium.
So the Engineerium leads into the Arboretum. Not the Arboretum. Is that what it's called? No, that's
The
Prey.
Dead Zoo.
I know,
Dead
but where
Zoo.
the Arizoans are. Is that all in the same place?
Yeah. The Arizoans are in the Engineerium. Yeah, there's like a holding tank in the Engineerium.
Well, it's called, instead of like being a terrarium, it's something.
It's a
Vivarium.
Vivarium.
Vivarium. There you go. Yeah. But yeah, they use her key to get in, and the key is really weird. It like you have to like turn it a bunch of different ways, and then the lock eats it and spits it back out. It's really weird.
Which was super weird.
But yeah, they go in there. Kate's excited to look at the taxidermy, but so far they've found no treasures of any kind.
Right. Yeah, because they also end up going. So right across from the Engineerium is the Dead Zoo, which is where he did have all his taxidermy stuff. And this is like what you were talking about, right? There's all these weird animals that
Mhm.
don't actually exist. Like there's actually a Sasquatch or a Yeti, I guess. And
Yeah,
Matt looks at its dick, which is funny.
it is funny. And it makes it go red. Which is
Yeah,
pretty funny.
I did think that was a funny little funny tidbit they put in there. Um, so they get in the engineerium, and the engineerium has all this weird stuff that Grinnell invented, right? All these weird things going on. Um, and there's this one really weird looking thing that looks like a telescope, and it's right next to the vivarium where they see some dead frozen Arizonans like floating around in there. Um, and they don't know what that thing is until like right towards the end of the book.
Yeah.
Let's see. Okay. So they end up turning this thing on though,
Yeah, I mean that's not
somehow.
till they actually get stuck.
Oh, because of the storm. Right.
Mhm.
That's right. They end up getting like buffeted by wind and stuff, so much so that the what is his ship called? Why can't I
I
think of it?
can't remember, dude.
I can't either. Anyways, Hal's ship has to break away because of the wind. It breaks away and has to back away. So now you got Hal, Nadira, Kate, and Matt stuck on the Hyperion with nowhere else to go. So this is where I was like, oh man, here comes all the ghost stuff. Like this is where the weird stuff's gonna happen. But none of that ends up happening.
No. So yeah, they get stuck and they like are chilling in the engineerium to like warm themselves up. And they notice that that one machine has like another key slot like the door had on it. And so they put the key in there and they turn this machine on and like immediately like the room comes to life and like there are a bunch of heaters like all along the floor in this place and they all like were on.
Yeah, and that thing starts like spraying freaking water into the vivarium, and Matt can also smell hydrium because it's presumably producing hydrium.
Yeah.
Um, so this is where I really started to not like this book. Um, turns out the Arizoans, these flying jellyfish, can live forever as long as they're frozen, because once this thing kicks on, it warms them up, and two of them come back to life, fully
Mm-hmm.
just good to go within seconds. They're good to go.
Yeah, and
Um,
they're like immediately on the attack too.
yeah, and they immediately try to either attack the our crew of people, or they attack the one that's dead and they just start
Yeah,
eating
they
it.
just eating it.
Yeah. So
And
now they got this. They can't hang out in the engineering anymore because there was a hole in the glass too, and one of them gets out of there and is freaking floating around up by the ceiling. So they can't go in there anymore. So now they're in trouble because they're gonna freeze to death. Um, is this when Wrath shows up?
yeah, it is.
Yeah, so lo and behold, here comes another Skybreaker ship, perfectly capable. Oh, because we forgot to mention they found a tracking device in Matt's bag,
Right.
and
But that's actually not how
supposedly,
they found them though. Because they find them with that whatever that one guy made a like a special thing that was like able to ping off their location just because they were close enough.
right. Wasn't that the tracking device or no?
No, the tracking device they find early on and get rid of it, but that was enough to get them close enough so they could like ping off their location.
Oh, okay. This is also where I get really confused with the technology of this world because
Yeah, it
some of
doesn't
it
really
is
make
like,
sense.
no, because some of it is like super highly advanced, and some of it is still like they yell into speaking tubes to
Hmm.
communicate. So I don't really fully understand like the technology of this world.
Yeah, I can't remember what his freaking ship is called, but they shoot like their ship that dropped them off down.
Yeah, the pirates show up and they attack it. They then they board the Hyperion. So now we got pirates on board. No ghost pirates, unfortunately. Or is it pirate ghosts?
I think it's
Um,
Pirate Ghost.
Um, so yeah, we find out that basically what happened is this one freaking oil baron guy wants to destroy this invention of Grunel's because it's basically like a free energy device. Takes sunlight and water,
Yeah, and
and
makes electricity.
it makes electricity and hydrium at the same time. It's a
Yeah,
miracle. Which
because
are
that's
like
what the Arizoans are doing, I guess.
yeah. So the way this thing's set up is Grunell was seeing what the Arizoans do, and he was basically mimicking it through this device that he created. Well, this oil baron guy wants to destroy this thing because obviously that way it won't ruin his business basically.
And
So
that's what Grinnell was doing. Was like that's why he took all his stuff and flew away. It was so he could finish this machine in secret because he knew that they were trying to stop him from making it. Which
right,
means before he went up in the air, he knew about the Arizoans, right?
correct. That's the only thing that makes sense
And yeah,
because the
but
ship
that
that
doesn't
is
make any sense
oh well yeah you're right.
because the only reason he saw them was because they went high enough up in the air. And
uh-huh.
I thought his airship was the first airship of its kind. So how the hell did he know about them before the airship was even made?
Yeah, I don't know, man. It's like it's a lot of plot holes here coming up.
I didn't even think about that until just now.
Yeah, I agree. No, I agree. Because I didn't really think about that either. But yeah, why else would he have this vivarium to hold these creatures in? And his device is set up right next to it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, you're right.
So yeah, there's a lot of like sneaking around the ship, around the pirates.
More filler.
Well, a lot more filler. It seems like it's going to be action packed, but they don't really run into the pirates at all.
Right.
Oh, and then they end up capturing Kate somehow. I can't remember. Him and her and Matt like were hiding in a coffin, and then she didn't. He got away, but she didn't. And the pirates over like the PA system in the ship are like, if you don't come here in 10 minutes, because oh yeah, I forgot to mention they have the plans for that machine. Like that's what they're planning on selling was the plans for that machine, so that they could make money off of this trip because they haven't found anything worth any value.
Yeah, they found like nothing of value so far, at least to them, on the whole Hyperion.
Yeah.
So yeah, we have they, pull some fast moves and they like bait the Arizoans into attacking the pirates, and the pirates immediately shoot it and kill it.
Well, they wound it because it like
Oh,
crawls on the ground.
oh, okay, yeah, they wound the one, but then Matt lets the other one out, right?
Mm-hmm.
The other one freaking jacks the pirates up, and then the pirates end up leaving, right? Because they know they can't stay there like the whole time. And so they go back to their ship and they're like, whatever, we'll sink the whole thing. We'll just friggin' destroy the whole Hyperion and that'll get rid of everything. It'll handle everything. So we should mention too that they found some what do they call ornithopters in like a bay on this ship also.
Oh
Hyperion.
yeah. But
Which
they're
are
like of a special design that Grunell had invented himself because ornithopters weren't invented till like 20 years after his disappearance.
right. Yeah, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
Man's a genius.
It's called the Sagramata, by the way.
Oh yeah, the saga.
Sagramata. Yeah, they call it the Saga. That's Hal's ship for anyone wondering like what the hell we're talking about. But yeah, so don't the pirates take off and
Yeah,
they start to scuttle the freaking Hyperion. They start just blasting it with cannon fire.
Mm-hmm.
So Matt and Nadira, which Nadira is doing terrible, by the way, we should mention. She's not handling the altitude very well. Basically, Cruz is the only one handling the altitude like perfectly fine. He's like good to go.
Yeah, it's even messing with Hal, and Hal is like trying to be like a big macho man and never wear any oxygen,
Right.
which ends up kind of fucking him up.
Yeah. So basically their only plan is they're gonna get to the ornithopter because they're like, Kate can fly this thing. Well, sorta, maybe. We don't know. Nobody's flown one of these things. Um, so they all get to the ornithopter except for Matt because you have to crank start this thing, right?
Yeah, like one of those old timey cars, I imagine, right? Like you see in those movies.
Kind of. Except remember, she says it's more like a wind-up clock.
Yeah, like so you just have to turn it.
Yeah, but it's not like because he's trying to start it like a car, so he's trying to like crank it really hard, and she's like, no, like slow cranks to wind it up, which I did think was cool. Um, anyways, apparently you can't control this thing once it's wound up. It's like one of those little toys you wind up and you let it go, and its feet just like start hopping all over the place because it just starts like flapping its wings, and it ends up bouncing out of the hangar without Matt, and Matt is left inside by himself.
Yeah, and so he grabs Prunell had made a wingsuit like
Yeah.
out of actual like bird feathers though, not like a squirrel suit you would see today.
Right.
And he just jumps out of the fucking Hyperion.
Yeah. Well, he doesn't really have much choice, so
Well, I missed the 30 seconds of it being like, and I grabbed the wingsuit, and then I'm falling, and I was like, wait a minute, what's fucking happening? And I listened to it again, and I'm like, that still doesn't make a lot of sense.
oh no, that's just what he did. He puts the wingsuit on, which, you know, probably needed a little bit of instructions on how to put it on, but he gets into it and he just jumps. That's his only hope.
Yeah, which it felt like another weird like shoehorning him, like, oh well, Matt has to fly in this book.
Yeah, because that's Matt's big thing, you know, he's lighter than air.
Yeah,
Which
'cause he was
made
born
way
in the
more
air.
sense. It made way more sense in the first book though than this one.
Well, I do like the touch that he can handle the altitude because he was born at altitude.
I agree. But this falling part, yeah, I didn't like it.
It seemed like he came to the end of the book and was like, and they got in the ornithopter and got away, and he was like, shit, I didn't have Matt fly in
Yeah.
this one.
Shit, Matt has to fly. It was so well done in the first one too.
Yeah.
When
oh,
friggin'
yeah.
Spearglass just shoves him, and he's like, and next thing I knew, I was flying because he's just in open air, and I was like, oh shit! But in this one, I was like, man, come on, he actually has wings now too. Like,
So he's able to get back into the ornithopter with Kate, which they have to pedal, and they're all really tired.
right,
And she magically is able to land this thing, even though she's it bothered me that like the only other time we saw her fly was in Paris, and she had
She
a hard
almost-
time landing that. Then how is she
Right.
all of a sudden a god pilot?
Well, doesn't the saga picks him up, right?
Mhm.
It gets a hold of him, yeah, it puts him back in there, and they get back on the saga. Yeah, and basically they once they're on the saga, Hal's like, nice, you got the blueprints, right? And freaking Matt's like, no, I gave them to you. And Hal's like, yeah, and then I put them in my rucksack, which I gave to you. And then Cruz is like, oh yeah, no, I totally forgot that thing.
Yeah. To be fair, there was a lot of excitement going on.
Right.
Yeah, so they're all bummed out. Basically, Hal is like he becomes like a drunk, belligerent piece of shit because we find out that like he's in debt so much that like if he didn't come back with like an exorbitant amount of money, the bank was just gonna take his ship away from him.
Right. Because his ship, yeah, he basically like leases his ship. It's not really
It's
his.
not really his, yeah.
Right. So Matt finds out he actually really loves Kate more than Nadira, kinda.
Yeah, which was so weird to me that he was like, I'm done with Kate. And then Kate was just like, I was trying to make you jealous. And he's like, oh, okay. It's like, what? That's fucking psychopath behavior, dude.
Right? Yeah, don't you think at that point, yeah, poor Matt, man, he just has such a hard on for her that he's like, okay, I immediately forgive you. But it's like, wait a minute.
That's what I mean. It was like all of that, like fucking 6 hours of this book, you just throw in the toilet and blow it up. And like it didn't even happen. It's like,
Yeah.
fuck.
Yeah, because like you said, that's some serious like psychopath freaking.
Yeah.
She was like the whole time she wouldn't even let up at all. She was just trying to make him jealous the whole time, which is so bizarre.
Yeah. Kate's trouble, I'm telling you.
Yeah.
But yeah, he meets her in her new ornithopter, and she's like, I want to buy this thing. This thing's fantastic. And he like gets to get upright, and he like slips and notices a little hatch and he opens it, and it's full of gold bars.
Yeah, so we should mention two things that we forgot. One, while Matt was like running from the pirates, he did find there was a bunch of gold on the Hyperion, like a
But it was like
shitload.
in a hidden walkway thing.
Right. It was like in a hidden area. And he mentions it looks like somebody had started helping themselves to it.
Which I thought Hal had found it.
I thought the same thing. Two, Grunell had like a right-hand man on the Hyperion.
They call him his manservant.
That's right, his manservant. Yeah, that's exactly what they call him. And that guy was nowhere to be found among all the other dead crew members that they found. Well, he was inside the ornithopter that they took, and they threw him out. And so Matt came to the conclusion that that guy was trying to escape the pirates, which is what caused the Hyperion to go into a storm, which is what caused it to go in the air to get frozen. And that's where all the gold in the ornithopter came from.
Yeah, and they like happened to find just enough so that Matt and Nadira will get like enough to have like a decent amount of money, and Hal will have enough to pay off his debts.
Yeah, it's something crazy like 32 bars. So
Mhm.
they'll each get like 2, and Hal will get like 28 bars or something like
Mhm.
that. So, yeah. Nice little happy ending there, happily ever after for everyone.
Yeah, which to me was like, oh man, all of this was for nothing, and they're like, just kidding. It's like,
Right.
really though? Come on.
I know. I almost it was almost gonna make me happy that they that they didn't get anything from it. Like I was like, dang, that's some pretty dark shit. But again, this is probably aimed at a younger crowd, so couldn't have to end it on a high note.
Yeah, I guess. So yeah, that's pretty much Skybreaker.
Yeah, I mean, I think overall a good book. I think overall actually a pretty good like story, but like I said, I think it would have been so much more interesting if they had found the Hyperion and it turns out it's like a ghost ship or some sort of situation. Like I don't know. That's what I was looking forward to because they find all these dead frozen bodies and I was like, "Oh man, what if like, some of the things still function?" Like when Matt sees the freaking rudder, like the captain turns the helm and he's like, oh, he thinks he's alive, but then he realizes it's the wind forcing the rudder over, turning the wheel inside. But I was like, wouldn't that be more interesting if some like it was ghost pirated?
Maybe I'm telling you, it probably was. And then somebody was like, no, you have to use fantastic animals. That's how you've structured this already.
I was 100% expecting Cloud Cats to show up again.
Me too.
I mean, if I'm being honest,
They don't
and it
even
wouldn't
mentioned.
No, and if I'm gonna be honest, that I thought for sure that's what was gonna happen, and I was gonna be very disappointed if it did. So I'm glad it didn't happen.
Yeah, but the Arizones are much worse.
I agree. At least the Cloud Cats are cool. They're not flying jellyfish, so.
Yeah, what a terrible name.
Yeah. Well, we won't beat this dead Arizona anymore. Yeah, that's Skybreaker. So, like we said, that's the second book in the Matt Cruz series by Kenneth Oppel. So, it's the first one, or sorry, it's the second book in our March sequels kind of month that we're doing here. So, the next book I believe we will be doing is Such Wicked Intent, which is also by Kenneth Oppel, and that is the follow-up to This Dark Endeavor.
Yeah. I don't know. I had an idea, but I don't want to talk about it on air.
Okay. We'll wait till we get back in the green room.
Yeah.
Or whatever the fuck that means.
Literally don't move out of this chair.
Right. Yeah, so look forward to that. Look forward to probably some more Anime Squires here in the next couple days. We will be continuing our Samurai Champloo series. And yeah, if anybody has anything that they want to say to us at all, please feel free to email us. kotpl.pod@gmail.com is the easiest way to get a hold of us. We really appreciate anyone and everyone who's listening. And the only thing we would ask anybody to do is just, subscribe or like or 5 stars or whatever it happens to be that you're listening to. If you like it, great. If you don't, thumbs down and whatever, because I guess attention is better than no attention.
True.
But yeah, so thank you, everyone. We really appreciate it, and we hope to catch you in the next one.